How's it going, YouTube? Coming in today with another video, and today, guys, with the brain is going to be my ban list prediction for the new format. I really do hope that Fire finally gets hit. This is probably the least fun Tier 0 format that I've been a part of. I think that it's just really not interactive like a tier format or what have you. Not my favorite format by a long shot. I really am not enjoying myself anymore. At the beginning I really was, but right now I'm not. So I do think that there's going to be a few hits that can really fix this format. And it doesn't have to be a lot either. There's like 1 or 2 cards that could go, and this would be a completely fine format. We'll talk about that. If you haven't already checked out my sponsors over at Imperium, Dragonshield, Gem, Cloud, Riw, Grimoire, or ChainLink, definitely go down below in the description, check them all out, and without further ado, let's hop right into my first ban card. First one, Sanctifier. I don't really think this surprises anyone. This card's just insane. It's been good for too long, and they just released new gimmick puppet stuff, so I think that the puppet is going to stay, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, I think the Albion just needs to go. The deck itself has been around for a really long time, but it's also been pretty toxic, and it's also pretty solid. I think that this is one of the cards is probably one of the biggest offenders in the deck, though, just because you can't target it. And then also bringing back the puppet is really ignorant, so like I think that this is a card that goes. But Branded, again, is one of those decks that can either just lock you out of the game or play an insane grind game with you. So I think that it's finally time that this deck actually gets hit. But this is my hit for the deck. Next up here is going to be the Original Sin. Now, I think that this is honestly just fine. I think that if Original Sin gets banned, the deck is fine. The reason being, though, is because, like, what does Witch do? Like, it can set the trap, I guess, but then your board gets objectively worse, and you're not being able to just summon out anything from your deck. It cuts this off from being an engine, and I think that if you just ban the Original Sin, not only do you cut it off as an engine, not only do you cut off the free summon, but you cut off the draw. So, like, I think this is just the answer. A lot of people want to see the Flame Bridge gone. I don't think that that's necessary. I think that's too much. I think if you get rid of the Original Sin, the deck can function as the deck is intended to, but you also cut it off from being an engine, and you cut off the draw, and a lot of the accessories of this deck being just slammed into other decks, right? So I think that this is perfectly fine. Get rid of this card and it is okay. The next one here is going to be Shifter and Featherstorm. Both these cards can go. They're just really ignorant. There's no counterplay. You just get hit by them and you lose. Not a whole lot to say about these. I actually started finally seeing a lot of players in the community bring out their pitchforks for Shifter. Finally, this is a card that just has to go. It's not fair at all. It's something that it gets dropped on you and just auto lose. Let it go. Featherstorm, again, either ban Featherstorm or put Reboot to 3. I don't want to hear any more on this. Reboot to 3 or Featherstorm to 0. I do not care. One or the other could happen and I'd be perfectly content. Now, for the limits here, Pot of Prosperity, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people are still in unison with this card. It's still a card that needs to be limited because it just gets you too many options. Being able to look at 6 cards with like almost to no restriction on the card, whereas like Duality, even just to look at 3, you just can't special. Like, that's a huge restriction, and this card just is like, yeah, you know, like, you can't draw, you can't do full damage, but, like, that never mattered when you're just searching for, like, a different dimension ground, or a skill drain, or an extra hand trap. Like, this card just turns it into literally anything that you need to. So, this card to 1 would be perfectly fine. Anti-spell summon limit, this is just going along with the trend of what they've been doing with, like, TCB, Rivalry, and Gozen. These were like the craziest ones in my opinion, and they just got missed. So I think that Skill Drain, as much as everyone hates Skill Drain, as much as I hate Skill Drain, that's probably the most fair, right? In my opinion, I think that TCB is also very fair, but like, beside the point, I think these two gotta go. They're just really dumb when you play against them, and if you have literally no answer for them, you just lose. At least Skill Drain is something that can affect both players to a good degree. And another reason why the Original Sin should go is because, like, with the Floodgate, the Original Sin allows you to clear your own Floodgate and then kill your opponent, which is something that I don't think that you should have the access to do. So by banning the Original Sin, you also can allow people to still play things like Summon Limit, but they just can't clear it on command, and they're still under their own effect, right? So I think that makes things a lot easier and a lot better, because if they have to like somehow make an SP to out their own card, then at least they can't attack. So definitely a lot of things that I think about with the format moving forward, but this is definitely something that has to happen, and the Original Sin also has to happen. The next card here is Kieran. I just really don't like this card being at more than 1 at the moment, just because it's another thing that is just like Sharvara. And it's kind of funny because you'll see that I have Sharvara come back to 2. But I think that Fire has enough to where right now, if the Kieran went to 1 and the Original Sin got banned, that the deck can play just insane still, right? Like, it can still do a lot. But like, even Unchained, putting Sharvara to 2, I think is fine, because, like, the deck did get really hurt by not having more than the 1. It already had a top, like, shout outs to Cody Minabe for winning the regional as well. But at the same time, I do think that this is a deck that still needs a little bit more ways to be explored, and having, like, the Yubel cards would be really fun. But I just don't like Kieran being at more than 1, especially with only having, like, an original ban. If you do both, I think that it makes both the variants a lot more fair to play against. Now, Branded Fusion to 2, I think this would also be fine. We're just seeing this splash into a lot, so I think that having the additional less ways to see this card would be a lot better. It's just like Fusion Destiny when it went to 2 for a while. I didn't hate that either. I thought that was fine. So I think, like, having a card like this to 2 is definitely okay. It's the same thing as looking at, like, Shaddoll Fusion versus this, and how big of a restriction the Shaddoll Fusion has versus this card, where it has, like, no restriction, right? Obviously, you get, like, Fusion Lock, but that never mattered when you're using this card. So I do think that this is a card that could go to 2, just to hit some consistency. And then Unlimit Blaster, I don't think this is a problem. There's not a whole lot of cards that you should unlimit right now, to be honest with you. Even, like, Pinkertops could probably still just stay at 2 and be fine. But this is the only card that could just go to 3 and nothing would happen. Beside that, Kit to 1. I'm going to keep saying this to the end of time. I think the deck is fine now. You could have Kit to 1 and be alright. The Millers are gone. There's a lot of hits to the deck. They'd be alright. But beside that, though, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope that you guys check out my Discord, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and if you guys want a coaching session or a Metafy, definitely go ahead and do so. All down below in the description, you can find all those. Subscribe to the channel so we can hit 21,000. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you did enjoy the ban list prediction today, let me know down below what you think could be on the ban list, and hope everyone has a great day. Thank you.